It is Tuesday. Welcome to the Jaybefaunt channel. I'm your host, James Fauntleroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Today is October 29th, 2024. I am your host, James Fauntleroy. Welcome. Come on in. Have a seat. Sit on down. Good to see all of you here. The Jaybefaunt channel is also part of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can find me there for the Savvy and JB show on Thursdays, and for Sundays, the JB show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. And then every single Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can find me here as well. So good to see you here. If you guys have not already, go ahead and give a like to the stream. This lets us know that you like what you're watching, as well as helps us out very much. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you have not already, have you considered subscribing to my Substack? This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. So you guys have that right there. So you guys can subscribe to the Substack as well. It's a little bit more convenient, especially when you're relying on the YouTube notifications. Sometimes some of you guys don't get it. Sometimes you guys do. If you guys can let me know, like, did you get the notification for the stream? I know I made it late, but just let me know. Also, if you didn't get the notification for the stream, did you get it for last stream? And if you didn't, then could you consider subscribing to the Substack so that actually gives you guys the actual stream whenever I actually go live, because you get it straight from me. So just let me know in the comments, by the way. All right, so while we're at it, we're going to go. Look, y'all, I'm not gonna BS you. I'm tired. I am tired. Look, this election is exhausting. Not only is election time exhausting, I'm on dialysis 3 times a week. Then I got RBN, 2 shows a week. Then I'm trying to do my show on this channel. I haven't got a chance to do my readings in a while, which I'm annoyed with myself about. Then on top of that, I'm also working on the campaign. So just all this different stuff that's all encompassing. And I'm just I've been exhausted today. I don't know what it is. I'm hoping this tea starts to take effect, because I do not know, guys. Look, I am so happy next week is November 5th. By the way, I already voted. I voted today. But yeah, man. Well, how are you doing? How are you holding up? Because there's a lot going on in the world today. And it's like we're not just feeling the physical weight of everything. It's also the mental and emotional weight that we're feeling of a lot of stuff. We're feeling the weight whenever we go to the grocery stores and we're having to struggle to pinch pennies. We're feeling the weight whenever we have to pay our rent. That one tear comes down your face like in glory every single time that rent comes out of your paycheck, or that rent comes out of your bank account. So how are you doing? Because that's, I think, the best question. I want to find out how people are doing. Let's go into the chat just to say hellos, see how people are, how they're feeling, and then we'll get into the subjects for today. I'm feeling just like y'all. Roger Meadows says, how you like that info, Jay? I didn't get a chance to look at it, bro. I'm telling you right now, I was doing campaign work and trying to set up the stream at the same time today. And I went and voted early today. So I haven't got a chance to look at. I haven't even got a chance to do my readings, bro. I'm doing a lot. And then I have to be in bed by 10, 11 o'clock tonight, because I had to be up at 4:30 in the morning for dialysis tomorrow. Sorry. CVC voter said, happy Tuesday at JB. Good to see you, CVC voter. Lauren says, I appreciate the poll, adding that verbal assaults, even those made in jest, are threatening to a person. their culture, color, humanity, and more. That's also a really good question, a good point. Also, if you guys have not already, go ahead and take the poll. If you guys already know of the situation, I'll be talking about it and giving my thoughts about it. But if you guys have not, if you guys already know about the situation, take the poll. If you guys want to wait until after I give my commentary, then you guys can wait until after I give my commentary. But don't forget about that poll in there as well. Chris C coming in saying, hey, JB, hope you are well. Thank you very much. Good to see you as well. Jacqueline coming in saying, hey, everyone, Jaybefaunt, Roger Meadows, CBC Border, giving love with the green heart. Thank you so very much to everybody. Let me see. Hang on. Jacqueline says, yeah, I got it on YouTube notifications and the Substack. Okay, good. All right. As long as you're getting either one or both, that's what I care about. Lauren says, slow your roll. Yeah, man, I will. I'm thinking after next week, okay, so there's going to be a special stream on Thursday next week, post-election, to talk about the election on Tuesday. But after that, baby, I'm taking a week off. I am not doing any content. Nope. Because the thing is like, it's more than just being on camera to talk about these things, which in itself is work. A lot of people don't realize that. But it's also having to do the research for the subjects and topics that you want to do. And, you know, sometimes you have to multitask and do that while you're doing other things. And then it's also trying to think of different topics that you want to discuss. Some stories that you see everybody talking about, and it's like, everybody's already talking about that. What do I want to talk about? What is very pertinent to me? And then on top of that, because here's the thing, one thing a lot of people don't realize about having a content on your channel is you don't want to be another version of somebody else. You want to be just the best version of yourself. And so, do I want to be a black version of Breaking Points? Do I want to be a male version of, Brianna Joy Gray, right? Or do I just want to be me and give my perspective, and the things that I'm interested in? So, yeah, I'm trying not to go on a rant, but yeah. Let me see. Roger Meadows says, JB, how do you vote on the BIs? Okay, so when it comes to the ballot initiatives, it's kind of interesting because it's kind of inverted. So there were ballot initiative votes as well as Orange County Charter initiative votes, right? For the ballot initiative votes, I voted yes on Amendment 3 and 4, and I voted no on everything else. So I voted no to make for Amendment 6 that would take away the, oh my goodness, I'm blanking right now. It would be no on the vote to take away public financing of state elections. I voted no on that because we need public financing of state elections. I voted no on the declaring hunting and fishing as a right because we already have hunting and fishing as a right. And I gave all, what I would vote yes or no through the ballot initiative series that I've done on this. If you guys want to see that, you guys can actually go to my playlist on that. You guys have that there. I voted no for school board being partisan elections. The hell with that. I do not want school board elections to be partisan. And then there was the one on the homestead taxes, and I voted no on that particularly because that means that the taxes, the shortfall on taxes would go from homeowners to the rest of us. And it's basically in a sense, punishing the rest of us for not being homeowners. And I don't think that's right. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's giving more of a tax break to homeowners, but it's putting those taxes that's needed to be covered on us who are non-homeowners. And it's like, nah, that's not fair. And in fact, I mean, if we're going to have infrastructure, if we're going to need the money for infrastructure, we should just do a public bank, which goes into one of the Orange County charters, where it actually asks about getting new charters on the ballot for the county. And I voted yes to shorten the threshold so that if in case we want to get a public bank in here, you have less of a threshold in order to get it on the ballot. So that's one of the things. There was a bunch of different Orange County charters. I can actually show you the sample ballot. I'll show it to you a little bit later because I'll be talking about judges and voting for judges. So we're going to be getting into that too. But yeah, so I think for the most part, yeah, that's pretty much all of them, I think. And then, of course, I voted yes for the legalization of marijuana, and I voted yes for the fetal viability back to 24 weeks, or till fetal viability to 24 weeks. I voted yes on both of those, right? But that's pretty much to be expected. But anyway, let's continue. Leroy says, I got the notification for YouTube and Twitter. I personally detest Mehdi, but he was threatened by a Zeal terrorist. We're going to get into that. I cannot wait. This is going to be interesting. And then yeah, Lauren says, damn, the pro-life hunters have more rights than women in Florida. Yeah. All right. So what are we talking about today? So later in the show, we're going to be discussing voting for judges. Boom. Don't forget the judges. A lot of people, we do our research on the president. We'll do our research on Congress people. We'll do our research on senators, even state reps and state senators. But what about the judges? I think this is really important. And I think people need to look about the judges. Don't forget, here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Order in the court, baby. Here comes the judge. Then we're also going to be talking about CVS workers in poverty. We're going to be talking about this. Look, CVS is wrong for what they be doing. And we're going to get into that. That's actually going to be the first story we're going to talk about. But look, CVS is wrong. The primary story we'll be talking about in a little bit is, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. This is the words of an unhinged pundit to Mehdi Hasan. So the question is, was Mehdi Hasan threatened, or was it just a jokey joke? He don't look like he's joking right there. And I think I'm starting to see a little bit of a vein pop out. But we'll be getting to that in a minute. But first, CVS workers in poverty. How many of you have went to CVS and you've noticed that you may have to wait a little bit in line? You may have to, lines are a little bit long. Things just are a little bit more ghost townish in a way. Have you noticed? I've noticed. So here's the thing. One of the things that I wanted to share, and I usually share this after the fact, but I'm going to share this before the fact because I would like for people to see receipts. CVS is now under fire from their workers for them not giving them a living wage, them not giving them what they need. So one of the first things I want to show is who owns CVS. I want to keep this in mind. So this is directly from CVS. This is their investor page. And I want you guys to look at who the top, let's look at the top 5 largest shareholders. Vanguard, Dodge & Cox, BlackRock, Capital World Investors, State Street, Capital Research Global Advisors, Geo Capital Management, and Fidelity Management Research and Company, going beyond the top 5. But it's always the same people. It's always the same perpetrators that actually own a piece of everything. And so when we talk about these corporations, you're always going to see the same culprits. You're always going to see the same greedy overlords that really just own everything and really just want to exploit the most out of workers. This is no surprise. You guys have seen me talk about this on this channel many times. I don't want to do this explanation ad nauseum, but you guys know that, of course, when I'm going to say, what's the issue? What's the really big problem? It starts with a C. If you guys don't know what that C word is, you guys can ask inside the chat and ask your classmate. But you guys will eventually find out what I'm trying to say. But the thing is that, corporations like CVS, Caremark, ultimately what they're about is profits. For a company that prides itself on providing medication and pharmaceuticals to the people, should the goal be profit first? Well, we're going to see what profit first actually does for other people. And then I also will be sharing about why giving a living wage is the best course of action, with a little assistance from a very wonderful colleague and comrade. But let's go into this video really quick, and then we will react. So this is out of More Perfect Union. It says, news: CVS is the second biggest healthcare company on earth, but many of its pharmacy workers are on public assistance. CVS made $8 billion last year and owns Aetna, yet it doesn't provide workers with affordable health care. So workers are going sick to a pharmacy. It says they owns Aetna. Yes, the same company that participated in slave ownership. Aetna, that Aetna. Seems like their prime objective still hasn't really changed in the last 150 to 200 years, has it? Well, let's get into it, folks. And shout out to More Perfect Union for this.
A lot of people have to go on Medi-Cal. A lot of people have to get insurance through the government. You're a healthcare company. You should be able to do something.
You own Aetna. You own Caremark. There's no way you can't tell me you cannot find a way to come up with a package for your employees.
CVS owns one of the largest health insurance companies in the country. But 64% of CVS workers in California don't have employer health insurance, according to a survey by their union local, the UFCW 770.
It's crazy enough that we're underpaid, but now you have to put a large portion of your pay towards your health care, where people now all of a sudden have to decide, do I want to have health care or do I want to put food on my kids' table?
CVS workers in Southern California went on strike on October 17th. After 6 months of negotiations, the union and CVS have reached a tentative agreement that would address many of the issues we heard about from workers. But CVS employees all across the country will continue to experience these issues, and worse.
CVS has gotten cheaper and cheaper. All they've been interested in is just keeping their profits.
CVS made $8 billion in profit in 2023, yet many of its workers are on public assistance. Of the many issues at play, none is more painful or ironic than the unaffordable employee health insurance plan offered by CVS, the second biggest healthcare company in the world.
Sorry, first of all, let me pause there. It's kind of funny how, a lot of times people will cry about how much we're spending in this country when it comes to the entitlements, right? Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and things like that, right? But if you're so mad at that, then why aren't you upset at corporations like CVS that are pushing people to be on public assistance in the first place? Why aren't you upset with them? And then the same people will get mad when we propose to give people a living wage. Well, if you raise the prices, then everything's going to go up. Baby, it has been going up. It's no different. The wages for federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. And so if we're paying this much for basic necessities, then ultimately, does it really matter if we increase the minimum wage? It does matter. The issue is the greed of the corporations, because the price is going to go up regardless unless you rein them in. And you can get mad and say, well, that's regulation. But the thing is that regulation can also help and save people's lives. Here's my thing. If you get mad about companies price gouging, things getting way too expensive, don't cry about regulation. Don't cry about it. Because it's the regulation that actually, some regulation is actually good for us to make sure that companies don't go beyond the pale and start exploiting us. But that also means that you can't have a government that is beholden to the corporations. They have to be beholden to the people. This is what happens when you have the government that's beholden to corporations, and it's clear in the tank in the paying for the corporations. So yeah, let's continue.
Do I have insurance through CVS? No, I don't. I have it through government assistance, which is Medi-Cal.
It sucks because it's basically, there's times when I know I'm sick and I know I need the medication, or I have an issue, I have a pain or something, I can go to the doctor and I can have that remedy fixed easily. But I can't do it because guess what? I don't have a health insurance.
Hang on, let me ask you something. Let me give you a scenario. When I was a line cook in the food industry and I'm at work, would it make sense for me to be at work as a line cook and I'm starving, or I'm very hungry and I can't partake of any of the food while I'm at work? There should be contingencies in place for the budget for your workers who, are hungry, to at least get something to eat while they're at work, right? So shouldn't that same contingency be put in place for workers who, if you literally own a health insurance company, to give that health insurance at least at a deep discount to your workers? The problem is that companies like CVS, they do not want to do this, particularly because they have to tailor their company to the shareholders. It's never to the stakeholders. It's never to the people. And so then who ends up suffering? Well, it's your workers. And the funny part about it is, it's like, they don't realize that their workers make the company. And if the workers aren't doing good, then what does that mean for the company? it just doesn't sit well. That greed is a horrible thing. It really is.
Going to urgent care is going to cost me a couple $100. Getting the medication is that's going to add on to the price.
The company has two separate and unequal health insurance plans, a more affordable plan for A stores and a more expensive plan for B stores. What's the difference? Nothing really. Workers at stores CVS bought in 2007 to 8 are A stores. The ones that came later are the B stores. That's it.
We even asked them about it. It's like, can we, get the healthcare into one healthcare? And their response was, no, it's not reasonable. It can't happen.
Part of the problem workers face is CVS's dominance of the pharmacy market, which gives it power to push poverty wages, skeleton staffing, and unsafe conditions at retail pharmacy stores. Even as it closes stores itself, its sheer size allows it to dominate.
That is what we call monopolization. That's what it is. And monopolization is a byproduct of capitalism. People can say, well, that's not capitalism, that's cronyism. Cronyism is a byproduct or a derivative or a piece of capitalism. You cannot replace it. It is part of that system. That's like saying that, well, that's not a carrot, that's beta carotene. Beta carotene is inherently inside carrots. That's just the way it is. It's a piece of it. That's part of it. You know what I'm saying? You can't, a leopard can't change his spots. That's how it operates. And when it comes to companies like CVS, the CEO has what you call a fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. Fiduciary responsibility means that they have to make profit year over year. No matter if it's a little bit of profit or a lot of profit, it still has to make profit by law. By law, they have to do that. If not, then they have the means to vote them out of the CEO position. And so ultimately, in order to increase the amount of profits that they have to do a few things. One, which throws customers under the bus, is increase in prices. Well, sometimes they know that customers also, in a sense, vote with their wallets. And so if prices go up too much, then customers are going to walk on out and go to the competition. So they can only do it so much. Another thing would be to increase, or I should say decrease the amount of stores that they have, so that also increases the amount of profit share that they have, which limits the amount of stores that they can have, which also means that a lot of employees get hired and fired. There's also the decrease in wages or the suppression of wages, right? So then now you have employees like this that do not have the living wage that they need in order to be able to survive, meaning that a lot of these workers are either going to have to work a lot more extra hours or they're going to have to get another job someplace else. There's also cutting of corners. Cutting of corners could be the cutting of benefits. For instance, they're not able to get the benefits that they need in order to be able to work properly. They're not able to get the health insurance at a reasonable rate because apparently we believe that health insurance should be through your employer in this country, which is wild beyond me. And then they'll cut things like safety measures, regulations. They'll try to get regulations cut in the government so that they won't have to spend as much money on safety regulations and things like that. And so there's all these different cost-cutting measures that they do in order to be able to make more profit because of that fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders. And so then once you have that, then everything else goes by the wayside. That's when the exploitation comes in, because the exploitation is absolutely necessary in order to increase profit year over year. Capitalism is a system where it requires infinite growth on the planet with finite resources. So therefore, you need to grow year over year, no matter what. That's just how it is. That's ultimately the way it works, because the rich have to get richer, which means who has to get poorer? Yep, that's the way it works.
It's not about what's best for the community. It's not about what's best for the workers. It's about corner the market. It's basically killing competition.
Industry-wide, an estimated 7,000 pharmacies have already shuttered in the last 5 years. Walgreens just this week announced 1,200 of its remaining stores could soon close, and Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy last year.
So this is another variable that I forgot to mention, but I'm glad it was mentioned in this video, is that another way is by growing their market share so that other companies are no longer able to compete. So then they have a larger market share, which also increases the profits. On top of that, because they let go so many people, well, then they can operate on a skeleton crew, meaning that they have less people doing the same amount of work of a full crew. This goes into the whole issue of quiet hiring, which I will also get into that in a little bit too. But ultimately, now you have one company or two companies that own the entire market. And so then if things like their quality control, customer service, and all these different things, if they fall by the wayside, well, where are you going to go? You can't go anyplace else. Oh, well, you're going to go to Walgreens? Well, they're just like us. You're going to go to Rite Aid? Well, they're declaring bankruptcy. Want to go to Eckerd? Well, CVS, we own Eckerd. You know, so that's basically the system in itself. So when people talk about, oh, no, it's not capitalism, it's cronyism, baby, it's all the same. You know, that's not potato chips, that's potatoes. That's not potatoes au gratin, it's potatoes. You know, it's like trying to separate, you know, French fries from potatoes. It's like capitalism, cronyism, and cronyism is capitalism. Oop. What did I just do? Oh no, did I just, oops, sorry. I just took down, my apologies. I accidentally closed the tab. No worries. We can get it back. Sorry about that, guys. I think we're... And I hope I was able to explain that very clearly, by the way. My apologies.
To the government. You're a healthcare.
Or to push poverty wages, skeleton staffing, and unsafe conditions at retail pharmacy stores. Even as it closes stores itself, its sheer size allows it to dominate.
It's not about what's best for the community. It's not about what's best for the workers. It's about corner the market. It's basically killing competition.
Industry-wide, an estimated 7,000 pharmacies have already shuttered in the last 5 years. Walgreens just this week announced 1,200 of its remaining stores could soon close, and Rite Aid filed for bankruptcy last year.
You have basically a few mom and pop pharmacies, and the sad thing is they bought a lot of those out. They bought up so much stuff just to basically take away all the competition they could.
It's unfortunate when these pharmacies close because these customers have to go, to the next store over. And what ends up happening is these customers spread to the nearest stores, and then the workload increases.
So the pharmacy, it's always hectic. They want us to do like a million things at once, basically.
We're working with one hand behind our back, and CVS is basically trying to see how many people they can actually cut down to make the most profit. They profess how much they care about the patients, but they don't give us the time to actually give the patients the care that they actually need.
The issue plagues front of store staff too.
Being understaffed frustrates a lot of the customers. They would prefer to come in, get their stuff, and get out. However, so many things have been locked up due to theft that customers are forced to wait for somebody to come along with the key to help unlock that product.
Do you guys see what I see? These are typically given to people who have diabetes. Why are diabetes supplements kept under lock and key? It's food supplements. Things like Boost and Glucerna and Ensure. For people who may have an issue when it comes to hypoglycemia, or somebody who has low protein and they need a protein drink, right? They're kept under lock and key. Why? Well, because people steal. Why do people steal? Are we all just kleptomaniacs? Just itching to steal? Is that what we are? Or is there a reason why people feel the need to commit theft in stores like this? Fact. Most people who commit crimes of opportunity, lack of opportunity, and desperation. And so in order to, keep their profits going, they have to make sure these things are locked up so people won't steal them. But if people actually made a living wage, if the cost of living was actually at a decent rate, then the amount of theft would actually go down. But then that means that companies like CVS would make less profit, even though they're already raking in the dough right now. It's quite sad. And oh, by the way, try going into the black hair care section in some stores. The black hair care section. They'll have all types of stuff that are made for us and our hair locked up and locked away. They even do the same thing for baby formula. Why? Why in the world you think? All right, let's continue.
But there's not enough people in the front store working.
Safety is a big concern as well.
People who come to the store to steal, if they are called out on it, they will go violent. I've seen my coworkers be shoved. I've seen my coworkers be almost punched in the face. It's ridiculous. I don't ever feel safe at work. I've never felt safe at work.
My particular store has been robbed 3 times in the pharmacy. The first time I was there, they were remodeling and my store was robbed and I was held at gunpoint. I mean, I'm not completely 100%. I'm never going to be the same because of that happening,
A full long weekend on strike forced CVS's hand.
I'm, just your basic, average, everyday, ordinary, run-of-the-mill, ho-hum fella who just happens to work for CVS, be a member of a union, and live in one of the most expensive cities and be living under $30,000 a year. I think if I were even earning slightly more than that, I would have a bit more pep in my step when it comes to both workplace and life.
We're willing to fight for safety. We're willing to fight for a livable wage. We're willing to fight for what we need in order to survive,
So when you hear of workers talking about safety, I would say that a livable wage and improving the cost of living is actually a public safety issue too. A lot of times when you're increasing the desperation for people, that makes their neighbors less safe, because now if people are more desperate, they're more likely to do some heinous things in order to survive. They will rob and steal, among other things, in order to keep their head above water. But that's because you're creating a system where desperation becomes more the norm. This is why a livable wage is actually safer for people too. A lot of people don't talk about that. Let me share this as well, because I want to give some credit. So Sunday, my RBN comrade, Savvy Savs, she actually did a cost of living report out of the Community Church of Boston. And this was a piece that I didn't get to share on Sunday, but I wanted to share here because she knocks it out of the park here and she takes us home. So let's get into it.
So we can go back here. So getting back to this point here, what caused this and how do we solve it? We need to start with the minimum wage. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. Remember, this is the least amount that you can pay someone by law. Minimum wage increases have been made through the states. We've had them here in Massachusetts. But according to the Outer Reach report that I just showed you for 2024, a $15 minimum wage at this point is not enough. When was the last time that the minimum wage was increased? Let's take a look at the history of increases of the minimum wage. This is from the U.S. Department of Labor. In 1996, there were amendments that increased the minimum wage to $4.75 an hour on October 1st, 1996 to $5.15 an hour, September 1st of 1997. Then we want to fast forward here to 2007, second paragraph. The 2007 amendments increased the minimum wage from $5.85 an hour, effective July 24th, 2007. And then $6.55 an hour, which was effective July 24th in 2008. And then $7.25 an hour, which was effective July 24th, 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, the minimum wage has not increased since 2009. It is 2024.
So one of the things that a lot of people forget is that the minimum wage is really the wage that you can pay people by law without getting in trouble. Because if that law wasn't in place, well, then companies would be paying even less than what they could. When a company's paying either at or near minimum wage, you're basically saying, I'd pay you less if I could by law, but because the law is there, I have to pay you this much. That's what it basically is. Because we don't trust companies to actually do right by their workers. Because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, meaning that they care more about what their shareholders get than what you as a worker get. So let's continue.
So let's pretend it did. If the minimum wage increased every year since then, that would roughly put us at about $15 an hour. That's where the $15 comes from. But according to that out of reach report, a $15 minimum wage at this point is not enough. There's a picture there of Professor Richard Wolff, because even Professor Richard Wolff would tell you this is not enough. The problem with the minimum wage is that it does not adjust for inflation.
That is the piece that a lot of people do not take into account. Not only are we getting paid less, but the dollar amount does not go as far as it used to back in the day. So the ratio is off as well. So a dollar in 2009 was worth more than $1 today, on top of us also making less than what we should be making. So that's the issue. And when we talk about a living wage goes beyond just a minimum wage, right? Because back then, when it was originally put in, I think it was under FDR, a minimum wage was actually supposed to be a living wage, but we've divorced ourselves from that in this country. So I'm going to let Savvy actually take this a little bit further.
So what should we be discussing? A living wage, a minimum wage versus a living wage. The minimum wage is the least amount a worker can earn by law. Right now, that's $7.25 an hour. But a living wage is based on the cost of living and would prevent families from entering poverty. We have to change our focus. I noticed throughout the years, and I'm guilty of this as well, we continue to discuss the fight for 15. We need a $15 minimum wage. But what we're doing is we're fighting for the least amount a worker can be paid. We should be fighting for more. We should be fighting for a living wage. So we have to change our focus. We have to stop focusing on a $15 minimum wage and start focusing on a living wage. And you can see in the picture here with the living wage, notice the scale is balanced. As long as we are focusing simply on the minimum wage, we're going to continue, to have a problem with poverty in this country, because again, the minimum wage does not adjust for inflation. So that's one of the reasons how we got here as a society. This country.
So, because of that, this is why you have corporations like CVS that continuously pay as close to a minimum wage, because then they get to extract more from their workers and keep more of that profit at the top for the shareholders. Because, of course, the fiduciary responsibility means giving more to the shareholders, even at the expense of the workers. This is why you have a lot of workers that are now on government assistance at CVS. And you can apply this to many other companies, right? You can apply this to companies like McDonald's. You can apply this to companies like Walmart. You can apply this to companies like Starbucks. It does not matter. It always means that they try to extract as much out of the workers to keep it in the hands of the people at the top. Because we're so focused on the minimum wage and we don't focus on an actual living wage, which also automatically adjusts to inflation. So then my dollar in 2009 will still go as far as my dollar in 2024. So, with that being said, this is why we need to stand with the workers and push for a living wage, a livable wage. And I will also say this. This also includes livable incomes for those of us that are either elderly in retirement or those of us who are on disability. Because that also pours in over to those of us who are disabled and those of us who are elderly. And so now, for somebody who's disabled like myself, disability benefits do not go nowhere near as far as they did back in 2009. Because guess what? Inflation does not keep up with the cost of living increase that you get from Social Security. So we're actually doing worse now than we did years ago. So once you start paying somebody a living wage, that becomes a systemic thing. When you change it into a living wage, it becomes systemic and it starts to influence everybody's standard of living, including when people start to make more and have a living wage and they're not getting into poverty. Then guess what? Crime rate drops. That's just how it goes. Crime rate drops. On top of it, if people start making more of a living wage, then guess what? Then they're not suffering as much. And then also your business starts to thrive more because people are more likely to go and shop at your business. People are more likely to buy from you and buy more from you, which also means that you get to pay more of a living wage to your workers, which I personally think that they should be a worker cooperative or worker-owned business anyway. But even if you are an employer, once everybody else starts doing better, you start doing better. And that's just the way it goes. So it really is a benefit for all. But CVS isn't interested in that because, well, like a lot of other corporations, they're greedy bastards. So thank you very much. Go ahead and give a like to the stream. Appreciate it so very much. Let's get into the comments, shall we? I'm going to check on the Rumble real quick just to see if we have any Rumble rants. I think we're good. Oh, I got a commercial on Rumble. Interesting. Yes, looks like we're good on Rumble, so no Rumble rants. Let's check the Rockfin. Yep, we got some Rockfin chats. Give me a Rockfin chat. One that don't give a what? Okay. I can't believe I just started to sing that damn song. All right, so I'm so silly. Let's go in here and start off with Roger. Thank you very much for the tip on Rockfin. He says regulations would not be necessary if workers, the community, consumers, stakeholders overall owned the company and supply chains because they are not going to put their workplace safety, their environment, and safety of their community or their general welfare at risk. However, something Larry, who is on the opposite side of us when it comes to regulation, noted. Most of these regulations end up regulating more small to mid-sized businesses than big businesses. It is analysts with giving a small to medium-sized businesses a $10,000 fine and a big business a $10,000 fine. So it's not just about regulations, but how effective and strategic are they? Supreme Court made it impossible to send the corrupted to prison. This latest decision with overturning conviction of former Indiana mayor has now also led to the releasing of convicted politicians like former Illinois government Rod Blagojevich and others from prison who are expunging their record of corruption. I'm glad you said you're taking a week off next week. That will give you time to catch up on that thing I sent you from that person you guys don't particularly care for. But the series, which concluded today, is immaculate, explains it. So thank you very much for that, Roger. But yeah, I think I want to focus more on the point that you made about if workers actually own the company and supply chains, they're not going to put their workplace safety, environment, and safety of the community or their general welfare at risk. And so this is one of the points I think that a lot of people don't realize when it comes to workers actually owning the means of production. This means that it will be safer not just for the community, but also for the workers, because the workers are not going to put themselves in harm's way if they're not going to want to do cost-cutting measures with some type of chemical or process that, yes, it's going to make things cheaper so that they can get more profit, but are they going to want to risk it? They're not going to want to risk it, because look, if I'm in an applesauce factory, I'm going to want my family to be able to consume that applesauce. I'm not going to put in subpar or dangerous chemicals or ingredients that could harm my family or my environment, because I'm directly affected, because I am a worker and I own the company. So this is the point. This is why we encourage workers owning the means of production. So yes, thank you very much for that, Roger, because a lot of people miss out on that point. Let's go into the rest of the chat and let's talk about it. Leroy says, facts. Back in 2019, I got the Platinum Healthcare Plan. That ish was $409 bi-weekly. Oh my God. And United Healthcare still tried giving my doctor's issues with a scan she wanted to do. Could have saved that money. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why I talk about we need a nationalized healthcare system. I don't care what nobody says, because that is going to be, number one, is more cost effective and it's cheaper. Number one. Number two, the money does not come directly out of your paycheck. It comes out through federal dollars, right? It's free at the point of service. And then on top of it, look, call me, whatever you want. I am, but if you want to use it as a pejorative, I really don't care. But yes, the people who have a whole lot more money, I'm talking about the billionaires and the 100 millionaires, they should be getting taxed a lot more so that everybody has what they need as a human right? Lauren says, your health insurance was more than $800 a month. That's impossible and so wrong. Absolutely. That is crazy. Teresa says, if they have to pay better wages, they will make sure it doesn't come out of their pocket because they're not going to lose. Yeah. And the thing is, like, this is why I say a living wage has to be done. But also, I think there should be regulations in place so that you don't essentially end up wage gouging or price gouging your employees, meaning you shouldn't have to pay above a certain percentage for certain things. Like, for instance, I don't think that you should pay more than 10% of your income for housing. I think that should be a law, right? And it should be percentage based. It should be percentage based and not a set number, right? Your wages, your living wage, should be set to the cost of living. Like, for instance, automobile payment should be no more than 5% of your income. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Like, you should be able to have, a set standard. And a lot of people are going to look at me weird, like, man, they say you're not supposed to pay more than a third of your income for housing. You're saying 10%? I'm like, yeah, because that's the way it is in China. This is why their cost of living is so low and they're doing so much better than the rest of us, because they actually are regulating and making sure that people do not lose out and pay, exorbitant amount of money in their wages for housing and healthcare and stuff like that, meaning that they can store more away and they can actually use some of that money to purchase more and do things and go out. Do you guys want, small businesses to thrive or not? It's just weird to me. Chris C says you should be able to get the benefit of getting the food you cook and serve to customer. I mean, you essentially control the means of production in that context. Yeah. Let's continue on. Zoe says, call me a radical, but medication, baby formula, diapers for any age should be free. I agree. I also think any type of feminine hygiene product should also be free too. I mean, be honest with you, it's really a right. I think we should honestly just provide it. You know, I also think that we should have public bathrooms again where people don't have to go into a store and be a patron to go. I think we should just have those again. But people are going to go, well, if you have a public bathroom, somebody's going to have to, you have to pay somebody to keep it clean. Exactly. We can still do that. Like they have public bathrooms in different parks and stuff. Why can't we have it outside of the parks? Why can't we have public bathrooms on the streets? And people go, well, it could be a safety issue when going inside public bathrooms. I'm not. I have no idea what that is. But yeah, so I mean, as far as things like that, I mean, people should be able to have just our basic necessities met. Not having public bathrooms throughout the city is just crazy. You know what I'm saying? People should be able to go. And also, if you constantly have somebody who's cleaning and monitoring, the bathrooms, if you're afraid of anything happening, somebody that comes in, every half an hour, I think you should be able to do that. And then also you can place cameras at the entrance so you can see who's coming in and who's coming out, Anyway. So he says Japan has public bathrooms and they're kept so clean. Yeah, I mean, we can do that. We can literally do that. We can adopt a lot of these, what these Asian countries are doing, especially like Japan and China, collective prosperity. We can actually adopt these type of mindsets. And we just have to get out of our own way. So with that being said, let's get into the primary story for today. Actually, before I do that, let me get into thanking the patrons on Patreon. I just want to make sure that I get this correctly. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. But yes, I want to thank the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, I would not be able to do this type of work. You guys make this absolutely possible. And you know what? You guys literally keep the lights on. So with that being said, let me do the honors and share the screen. All right. So all right. So here are the tiers. And yes, I need to update the list, but it's been a long few days. But yes, here are the tiers. Mega Jaybefaunters, Super Duper Jaybefaunters, Super Jaybefaunters, Jaybefaunters, Comrade, Solidarity, and JB members. And yes, I need to update the list. I will get to that as soon as I can. But thank you to all new members. And shout out to all of you for keeping the lights on. And in addition to, and furthermore, if you guys have not, my channel is demonetized. So if you like to support the channel, you can support it via Patreon or PayPal. So thank you very much for that. Now, what are we going to talk about for the primary story? Well, we're getting into it. Mehdi Hasan, was he threatened? Make sure to take the poll. We're going to get into this because I think this is going to be interesting to get into. This is kind of a corporate media drama. So let's go. So here's the thing. I feel like Zionism is really getting its mask off moment. It's been happening all of 2024 primarily. Cat Williams was right when he said on Club Shay Shay that everything will be revealed in the year of 2024. And I'm gonna be honest with you, there has been a lot of revealing things. And what we see now is somebody like Mehdi Hasan is really seeing the extent of how much Zionism really permeates corporate media. And yet Mehdi Hasan still says that we need to side with the Zionists in order to prevent another Zionist from committing genocide. So we're going to get into this because it is very important. And I'd like to share with you guys. So we're going to go into this. So there's a man by the name of Ryan Girdusky who said something pretty bad to Mehdi Hasan. And I want to get that, and then I want to get the follow-up and blowback from it. So let's get into it.
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and no, by me, I never called you an anti-Semite.
So the gentleman on the right is Ryan Girdusky, and then Mehdi Hasan you see on the left. Well, they're actually debating what was said at the latest Donald Trump rally. Donald Trump has actually had a rally in Madison Square Garden in New York, and that was a huge rally. He filled up Madison Square Garden. But there were some things that were said that are bigoted and racist that were said there. And the gentleman, Ryan Girdusky, is on the right. And he's defending basically the jokes and things that were said that were bigoted as well. And Mehdi Hasan is taking him to task on it. So I want to just set that up so you guys know exactly what this gentleman says. And I want to make sure you guys got that kind of context when it comes to this. So let's go back just a little bit and let's continue.
Don't call an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and no, by me, I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. So I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. The thing is that
you just say I should die?
Let's start that back over. Let's go back over again and let's listen to what Mehdi Hasan has said. And let me see if can I change the playback speed? Yes. Let's slow it down. Okay? Because we gotta get this.
If you don't want to be called Nazis, stop doing.
You're called an anti-Semite more than anyone else's table.
Yeah.
And people will sit there and no, by me, I never called you an anti-Semite. I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians.
Okay, so
by me, I never called you an anti-Semite.
He said, I never called you an anti-Semite, right? So basically, he's defending Israel.
I mean, I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. So I'm used to it.
Yeah, I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
So let's examine.
I'm not sitting here saying
I'm a supporter of the Palestinians. So I'm used to it.
Yeah,
and then he says,
I hope your beeper doesn't go off.
I hope your beeper doesn't go off. So this is basically a reference to the beeper attack that Israel did against people in Lebanon. And was that a threat to Mehdi Hasan, or was that just a very poor joke? What do you guys think? Because some are saying that it was a threat. Some say that it was just, a very poorly executed joke, a joke in poor taste. But there's a lot of outrage over this. Now, if it is a threat, then yes, I think the outrage is appropriate. My thing is, I think that there should be outrage, but there should be even more outrage over what's actually legitimately going on in the ground in places like Gaza and the West Bank and in Lebanon at the hands of Israel as well. I think we can have outrage on both, and I think there should be outrage on both if this is perceived as a threat. Now, I had to slow it down so that everybody can hear because people are talking over each other. So let's continue and let's go over this because Mehdi Hasan goes, what?
The thing is
Did
that
you just say I should die?
you
should not.
no.
Did you just say I should be killed?
No, I did not
on
say that. I said,
CNN?
no, I did not say that.
Hold on, hold on.
Did you just
Let me-
say I
No,
should
I
be
did
killed
not.
Let me
What
hold
did
on.
you
on live
say?
TV?
I said I hope
Guys,
you're.
let me just stop.
You said you
Let
hope
me-
my beeper doesn't go off.
Because you said I'm
stop
being
that right
supportive
now.
Of the
of
Palestinians.
Hamas.
Guys, let
I
me
said
stop.
Palestinians.
Are you? A supporter
Am I
of
what?
Hamas?
No, of course I'm not.
Palestinians
supporting
are
Hamas.
not-
Then I
Are
apologize.
you a
Ryan.
racist?
So he thought that he was defending Hamas for some reason, which is always an excuse. And anybody who knows Mehdi Hasan knows that Mehdi Hasan has never defended them, even though Mehdi Hasan does not defend the people who are resisting occupation, which is really beyond me because I'm like, Mehdi Hasan, you're Arab and you're Muslim, but yet you're not going to defend people who are trying to defend their home. But it is what it is. But the thing is that this guy is saying, well, I thought you were Hamas. I thought you were defending Hamas. And it's like, no. Let's continue.
Then I
Violent
apologize.
person
Then I
inciting violence
apologize.
against
Ryan,
That's disgusting.
that is completely.
Then I apologize.
Good
That is
job, CNN. Let's
completely
have
out
first block
of
say the
pocket.
Muslim guy
You
should
know
be
that.
blown
Then I
up.
apologize.
on
Then I
TV.
apologize.
Don't
Then I
say
But I apologize. That's my sorry for 2004. And I ain't gonna mess up no more. Oh boy, you stepped in it, didn't you? And the funny thing is, like, he was just trying to defend from saying bigoted things at a Trump rally, and then he just oh my gosh, this guy it's not good. It's not good. Ryan is a bad hombre. Bad hombre. It's not good for you, Ryan.
don't say then I
Wow.
apologize. You literally
I thought you said
accused
Hamas.
him.
I
You
apologize.
didn't think I said
No.
Hamas.
No,
I
you
said I
didn't.
supported
Yes, I did.
Palestinian
Yes, I
rights.
did.
Why? Because when you
And
hear
what's funny
Palestinian,
is
you
Rudy
hear Hamas.
Giuliani said this
No,
yesterday,
because-
so you're a great guest
Listen.
to be here
All
to
right,
defend
I
Rudy
told
Giuliani.
myself
Give me
I
one-
wasn't going
give
to
me-
entertain
give me one
nonsense
sec.
today, and so at this
This
point,
is what we're
I
in now.
can't
This
do
is
this.
America in
Okay.
Here's
2024.
what I will say.
Forget the
Here's what
racism.
That's
It's
right.
I should
That's
die.
right.
I didn't
That's-
say
that-
that. You
You
should
said
die.
what does beeper mean? Don't give me a
I
fake
did not say you
ignorance.
should
Guys,
die.
Why did you say it with my beeper
give me
So
noise?
a,
what did you mean?
What did you mean by the beeper?
So what
I
did you
said-
mean?
What did you
No,
mean by
no,
the
no,
beeper?
no, 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 no,
No, you didn't. You said, I hope your
Listen,
beeper
but
doesn't
like,
go off.
Ryan, stop talking.
At least
Sorry.
have the guts to support your race.
What do you guys think? Look, and by the way, I got this at 0.75 times speed. It's actually faster than this in real time. Ooh, he stepped in it. And saying something like that, who says that? I hope your beeper doesn't go off. You know, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna call it like I see it. He sounds like a liberal when we, people like myself, talk about voting third party. He sounds like a liberal. Well, I hope Donald Trump doesn't do such and such and such to you. Or when I defend the Palestinians, well, you're a gay guy, so I hope Palestinians don't throw you off a roof. You see the similarities? You see the similarities between the liberals and the conservatives that are in both parties? Oh, you guys didn't know I was going to take it there, did you? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if you're a liberal, and if you have said something like, well, I hope Donald Trump doesn't do such and such and such to you for voting third party, you're just as guilty as this guy. You're just as guilty. You're just... Look, I'm calling it like I see it. Look, this is what it is. Every single person that has ever said anything like, well, when Donald Trump put you guys in a concentration camp, don't cry to me. When Donald Trump, bans all your rights or does such and such to black people, don't come after us. That's the same thing as this guy basically saying, I hope your beeper doesn't go off. Am I wrong? That's what it sounds like, man. It just, it feels like similarity between what they both do, you know. Anyways, let's continue.
Yeah, to support your racist comment.
I'm so sorry.
Let her bring it back.
This is why.
Ooh, you saw that look on his face. Ooh, he looked like a shamed little boy. Oh my God. You know that bouncy commercial where the little boy spills juice and he's all, and the mom goes, that's what it's like. Oh my gosh. I wish we can do this to liberals too. Man. Anywho, let's continue.
This is why yesterday's rally was disgusting.
Don't call us Nazis, but I'm going to threaten the brown guy as a terrorist and kill him.
Because I didn't ever say Donald Trump was Hitler. Man. But do you know who stood on a stage yesterday and said, I want to come to the Nazi rally? I don't have to make up words and call you something. You're saying it for yourself. And what you just said right here, apologize, but I will tell you, I don't accept that apology, and you didn't even say it to me.
I didn't say
that was disgusting. But I can be offended when you don't even say it to me. I'm not Puerto Rican, but I was offended by what he said yesterday. And I'm offended that the former president and potentially future president would allow it and go for 12 hours and not say, I don't care. Because you know what? When Kamala Harris put out statements about switching of opinions, it wasn't good enough for Republicans.
Why are you looking at me?
Because you said it.
Why don't you take this back a little?
Okay, so here's my rebuttal to that as well. As somebody that does not support Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, ma'am, does the genocide, does that offend you? Does building cop cities in support of cop cities across this nation, which will target mostly people that look like me, does that offend you? Does Kamala Harris throwing trans people under the bus, does that offend you? Does Kamala Harris taking the Freedmen's Bank and trying to include a whole bunch of other ethnicities which don't belong in there, does that offend you? Does Kamala Harris want to continue to build the wall, does that offend you? See, here's the thing. You cannot sit here and morally preen about what this guy just said when liberals are also doing the exact same thing. You can't. You cannot. Because the thing is like, Donald Trump wants to talk about, being Hitler. Yes. But guess what? You got one that talks about wanting to be Hitler, and you got one that's acting like Hitler. And here's the thing, they're both horrible. You got one saying, we're going to have the most lethal fighting force in the world. Guess what? That was Kamala. If Donald Trump had said that, liberals would have been in an uproar. Oh my God, he said we're going to have the most lethal fighting force in the world. Guess what? That was Kamala. I'm not saying that Kamala is, I'm not saying that Kamala is worse than Trump. I'm saying Kamala is just like Trump. That's the issue. And here's the deal. Is Donald Trump's rhetoric reprehensible? Yes. Is his actions reprehensible? Yes. And if Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are doing the same actions, same policies as Donald Trump, does that also make them reprehensible? Yes. Yes, it does. And so here's my thing. If you're going to be offended at what this gentleman said, then you need to also be offended at the actions that people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are also equally doing. But you keep your mouth shut. This selective type of outrage that continuously happens. And guess what? A guy like this, look, this is breeding ground for, all these type of Zionist thinking at these corporate media outlets. And this would happen at CNN, Fox News, Newsmax, MSNBC, ABC, and they're going to go, well, this is no place for that. You guys have bred this. You guys have allowed this to continuously happen. And you guys barely, if ever, have on somebody who's Palestinian who actually uses their voice on these programs. And even if they do, you guys don't have any Palestinian representation at in your news organizations. Where's the Palestinian bureau chief? Huh? Where's the Palestinian news anchor? Where's the Palestinian contributor that comes on a regular basis? Somebody that actually talks about Palestinians having a right to exist. Palestinians having a right to defend themselves. Who is on there saying anything like that? You guys don't have that. And then you'll have people like Mehdi Hasan, who, yes, he will defend Palestinians, but he'll also condemn their resistance to occupation. You'll have people like Mehdi Hasan who will morally try to do pretzels, twist himself into a pretzel to talk people into voting for somebody that's still committing a genocide against the Palestinians, but yet saying Palestinians should have a right to defend themselves. You see how it's incongruent? It doesn't make sense. Mehdi, you're still vouching for somebody committing a genocide. Now, what this gentleman did to you was wrong? Absolutely. But you also need to look inward and reason with yourself. Why are you asking Palestinians to vote for somebody? Why are you asking Palestinians to vote for their murder of their families? Why are you doing this? Yes, be morally outraged at the gentleman that what he said to you, but also just be equally morally outraged at people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And be morally outraged enough to say, absolutely not, they do not deserve to be rewarded for genocide. Have some guts, man. You got enough guts for this guy, but you don't got enough guts for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Grow a pair. Grow a spine. My God. People on this corporate media, they will stay within the duopoly, with the two-party system, because they're so afraid of what? Miss Cackles a lot? Because you're afraid of Mr. Tangerine Man? When in reality, they're both doing the same type of policies? You guys are more afraid of the personality than you are the policy. Be outraged out the policies. So Abby Phillips had to come in on a break. And by the way, Ryan Girdusky, I think his name is, he was missing after they came back from a break. Let's go into Abby Phillips' apology. So we can go back to, okay, it's at regular play speed. Okay.
We're back here, and before we get started, I want to just address what happened in the last segment. First, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hasan for what was said at this table. It was completely unacceptable. When we get this discussion started, you'll see that Ryan is not at the table. There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network. We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. But when you cross the line of a complete lack of civility, that is not going to happen here on this show. It's a heated time. We're in the middle of a political season. We are 8 days from a presidential election. But we can have conversations about what is happening in this country without resorting to the lowest of the lowest kind of discourse. Want to address that. And I want to apologize to the viewers at home. Because we want to be able to hear each other, we want to be able to talk to each other, and we plan to do that in this next segment.
So let me break this down really quick, okay? Because I also wanted to address Miss Abby Phillips.
We're back here, and before we get started, I want to just address what happened in the last segment. First, I want to apologize to Mehdi Hasan for what was said at this table. It was completely unacceptable. When we get this discussion started, you'll see that Ryan is not at the table. There is a line that was crossed there, and it's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to us at this network. We want discussion. We want people who disagree with each other to talk to each other. But when you cross the line of a complete lack of civility, that is not going to happen here on this show.
Just think about what I said earlier. What about the lack of civility when it comes to your particular anchors and talking heads that constantly defend a country that is committing a genocide, that's committing ethnic cleansing, that's committing extermination of a people, but yet you keep going on the side of the exterminator and saying that they have a right to defend themselves? Is that also reprehensible as well? Are you going to call that? Because you're willing to call out a gentleman that is on the right, that is a defender and a supporter of somebody like Donald Trump, which I get, right? And that should be called out. But what about what's going on in Israel? Are you going to continuously have somebody, skirt on the narrative like a Jake Tapper or a Dana Bash, and they're going to continuously defend, especially with their narratives and questioning, an ideology or a state that's continuing a genocide and, you know, murder of hundreds of thousands of innocent Palestinians? Are you going to continue to allow people to speak for a government that continuously does terrorism against a people that is occupied, against a people that is living in an open air concentration camp? Are you going to call out that? Because would you allow somebody who continuously did the a Nazi narrative? Would you allow somebody who you know, said that Germany has a right to defend itself in 1930s and 1940s Germany? Would you allow for that person to continuously say things like that? Are you going to continue in the United States or the British colonies had a right to defend themselves from the Indian savages? You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's a heated time. We're in the middle of a political season. We are 8 days from a presidential election. But we can have conversations about what is happening in this country without resorting to the lowest of the lowest kind of discourse. Want to address that, and I want to apologize to the viewers at home because we want to be able to hear each other, we want to be able to talk to each other, and we plan to do that in this next segment.
So the gentleman that was basically kicked off, I want to go to his page because apparently he spoke out. Ryan Girdusky. Let's go to his page really quick because apparently he spoke out against it. So this is his page, right? Let me see. He made a. There he goes. So he actually wrote on Substack. So you've been banned from cable news. My best advice for future conservatives dealing with the double standard. My thing is that why aren't you speaking out, Ryan, against the genocide? Why aren't you speaking out against it? It's clear that you won't because of what you said to Mehdi Hasan. When someone tells you who they are the first time, believe them. And trust to believe, I'm no Democrat. Because the Democrats are all about the corporations now, just like the Republicans. So I decided to try to go to his particular Substack to read what he said. Because I was like, okay, let me give it a read. So here's his Substack. And it's entitled, So You've Been Banned from a Cable News Network, My Best Advice for Future Banned Conservatives. This is from Ryan James Girdusky. Right? And he wrote that earlier today. But you have to pay to read it. So to hear his defense, you actually have to read it. So he's literally making money off the outrage of what he did. So much for being remorseful. So much for being sorry. So now you're going to make money off of it. Can you believe it? So, was he wrong? I believe so. But also, I think that the people who are sitting at that table also need to reflect on the actions and policies that they're willing to co-sign on that's being done by an administration, and look inward to what they're willing to accept. Are you willing to accept your rights being dangled in front of your face in order to accept atrocities being committed against people here and abroad? Are you willing to accept your rights as LGBTQ people in exchange for allowing this administration to carry out a genocide, or this administration to allow a police state to bubble up forth in this country? Are you willing to allow this administration to dangle in front of you your rights to body autonomy in exchange for throwing trans people under the bus, in exchange for allowing other people who are the same gender as you to be massacred in an area where miscarriages have exploded 300%? Are you willing to allow and accept that? Are you willing to allow and accept someone who's willing to throw migrants under the bus and continue the destabilization that causes the migrants to come here in the first place in exchange for your rights? Are you willing to allow somebody who doesn't give a crap about Black people for your rights? And I put that out also to people who are willing to vote for Trump too, because you're doing the exact same thing. Are you willing to sacrifice others for your rights? Can we actually fight against the system and actually get what is our rights for us, retain those, and go against what the state is doing, what the empire is doing? I say yes, you can. It should not be an either or. We deserve to have our rights enshrined, as well as not risk the lives of other people just so that we can expand the empire. And I feel like this is what's missing out of the conversation. Did you guys take the poll yet? What'd you guys think? Go ahead and take the poll, and go ahead and give a like while you're at it. Let's go take a look. Take a look, see. I'm quite curious. All right, let's share the screen. So out of 42 votes, was Ryan Girdusky's comments a threat? 52% think they were a threat. The next one was a bad joke. 16% said a bad joke. And then 33% said, I don't know. And thank you for being very honest and saying you don't know. A lot of us, we just do not know, how we should take it. And ultimately, that's what a lot of us, especially a lot of us Black people, feel. There's times where somebody may say something particularly a white person may say something, and we're like, is that person just a jerk? Or was that person a racist? And we're constantly asking that question in our head when people treat us badly who are not black. Was that person a racist or was that person a jerk? So that's something that we go through all the time. But yes. So let's go into the chat. I'm going to check on the Rumble to see if we have any Rumble rants, any thoughts. Looks like we're good on the Rumble side. And we're going to go into the Rockman. Looks like we're good on Rockman. And let's go into the general chat. All right. Lewis says, look, as a black man, as long as blacks are calling each other the N-word, I truly don't care about who chooses to use racist content to make a point and to see the fake outrage by the cast. That's an interesting take. Roger says, question to the audience, do you guys struggle to find vote Kamala or vote Trump signs where you live? Because out here in Nassau County, Long Island, I can count on one hand all the amount of signs for both. That's actually a good question. Lauren says, Zionist dude knew this would trigger, but he gambled wrong since he got thrown out, but he did the Zion's bidding. Yeah, unfortunately. Cobra Commander says the same conservatives will tell you to unalive yourself because you see a doctor. Chrissy says liberals already threaten me in my DMs when I mispronounce Kamala's name, and conservatives get mad when I question Trump's policies. So exhausting. Yeah. This is true, Lewis says. When VP Harris said that the DNC, I immediately remember, when she's talked about the most lethal fighting force, I immediately remember her this year standing on the Selma Bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, with civil rights leaders and thought, wow, now it's okay to stand by a warmonger. That's also true. But it was the same thing with Obama, right? Zoe said, so wouldn't it be unacceptable to vote or support a party that is responsible for a genocidal onslaught that led to the Beeper attack? You're onto something, Zoe. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Human Rights for All, on the Twitter side. Let me. All right. So, with that being said, yeah. Lauren says he kind of looks giddy to me. It's like the Matt Miller smirk. Yikes. All right. So let's get into the final segment that I want to get into. And I'm going to make this one kind of quick. But yes, bringing into the final segment. Let's talk about judges, Sally. Shall we? Oh my goodness. Don't forget the judges. Dun dun dun. You know, when I first did my vote back in 2018, the first time I ever voted, one of the things that I noticed in the ballots was that we also had to vote for judges. I was like, wait, we vote for judges? Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, well, what's the significance of that? Well, it's not just only if you get in trouble. It could be if you're suing. It could be a lawsuit against a person. It could be a lawsuit against a corporation. It could be for many different things, you know, especially when it comes to appealing, you know, either to an appellate court or to a Supreme Court, whether it be state Supreme Court or the or, you know, it being allowed to go up to the United States Supreme Court. And this is why it's so important. And it also goes into laws being passed and things like that. So I think it's important that we go over looking at the judges when it comes to our ballots, if you do choose to vote, and seeing, you know, what you can do in order to know who's the right one to choose, you know, or if you should choose any at all. So let me share an example with you. I'm going to share with you guys the sample ballot for Florida so you guys can see. So this is the sample ballot. For the 2024 election. So as you can see, here's president and vice president. So there's, you know, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Chase Sullivan, Claudia De La Cruz, Randall Terry, Peter Sonsky, and Dr. Joe Stein. And then you have a write-in. Of course, they would put Dr. Joe Stein way at the bottom, but I digress. One of the things I wanted to go to is here right in the middle where it says Florida Supreme Court. So it says, shall Justice Renatha Francis of the Supreme Court be retained in office? And you get a yes or a no. And these Supreme Court justices are typically appointed by the governor, right? So you can enlarge so you guys can see. The Supreme Court justices are appointed by the governor, but we can vote to retain them or not. This is something that we can do within the state of Florida. So here it says Renatha Francis, and then you also have Meredith Sasso, right? You have the choices to retain them or not. And you can look at the Supreme Court, and one of the things I always recommend to people is when researching about the Supreme Court justices or other court justices is to try to look up their rulings if you can, or if not, there's also good news articles that you can actually get into in order to find out where they stand. And that's a really good way of finding that out, right? So this is out of the Pensacola News Journal, right? So it says, should Florida Supreme Court Justices Francis Sasso be retained? What to know about them? So this is a good way of finding out your choices and, you know, whether to retain certain judges or not. So It says a lot of excitement surrounding the Florida ballot in November 5th. General election is gathered around 2 of 6 constitutional amendments. Amendment 3, which seeks to legalize weed for recreational purposes, and Amendment 4, which would limit government interference regarding abortion rights. Before voters get to those questions on their ballot, they'll be asked whether they believe 2 Florida Supreme Court justices should retain their seats. Both justices are newly appointed, which means they must run to retain their seats in the general election that occurs more than a year after appointment. So it says, if they hold their seats, 2 justices, Renata Francis and Meredith Sasso, would each serve another 6-year term. Each of Florida's 7 justices were appointed by a Republican governor, and both Francis and Sasso were appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis. No Florida judge has ever lost a retention election, according to Ballotpedia. Here's what Florida voters should know about to make an informed choice on whether Justice Francis and Sasso should retain their seats. So this is the information about them. Who appointed them? Well, one was appointed by Rick Scott, and they both were appointed by Rick Scott, but then they were appointed by Governor Ron DeSantis. So it talks about their history. They're basically their professional bios, where they're from. I didn't know that we had one of our Supreme Court justices is actually from Jamaica. I did not know that we can have a Jamaican judge that is not born here in the United States. But that's what we have. So it talks about her, where she did her practice as a lawyer, as an attorney. And so here's some things where it would give you pause, or it should give you pause if you're more for workers. Not that this is a definite thing, but the fact that she went to Ivy League gives me pause, because a lot of times people who typically go to Ivy League, is not set in stone, but there tends to be some classism that comes into the fray when it comes to certain people who go to Ivy League. It's not always. For instance, I'll say people like Brianna Joy Gray is a Harvard-educated lawyer, and she, has class traitor proclivities, which, is something that makes me more fond of her, because she sees that, we're all in this together. But some who are educated in the Ivy Leagues especially tend to stick with their class, right? So this is why I pause when I hear somebody who went to some place like Brown, Yale, Harvard, Stanford. People like Ron DeSantis actually went to Yale. So let's continue. And then here is the thing. It says prior to that, she spent about 7 months at Schutz and Bowden, where she represented insurance companies in personal injury protection cases. So these are things like this that give me pause, right? It gives me pause because people like her defend the corporations. They're not defending the average Joe like you and me. They're not defense lawyers that, or public defenders that are defending, the little guy, especially when they have a history of being a lawyer, that litigates for insurance companies, corporations, banks. That's always a bad omen, in my view, when it comes to people like this. So, says Florida Supreme Court Justice Renata Francis. So her voting record says Francis voted in favor of the state. Francis voted in favor of the state in the April Planned Parenthood versus state case, which a 6-1 decision upheld Florida's 15-week abortion ban. At the time, Florida was already pushing for even more limited 6-week abortion ban, which is contingent on how the case played out. Florida's 6-week abortion ban went into effect on May 1st. So she was one of the judges that was in favor of the abortion ban, meaning that she was in favor of an abortion ban where most women don't realize till at least 6 weeks that they're pregnant. Executive power says twice since last year, Francis joined the court majority in rejecting efforts by former state attorneys to challenge their suspension by DeSantis from offices voters elected them to hold. She has also argued for limiting citizens' ability to challenge gubernatorial actions in court. So I'm not a big fan of that. Limiting citizens' ability to challenge gubernatorial actions. So we see which side she's on. Regarding legalizing weed, Francis and Sasso were lone dissenters in allowing Amendment 3 on the ballot, which seeks to legalize recreational marijuana for adults, meaning they did not want it on the ballot. So that tells you everything you need to know about Renata Francis. Meredith Sasso talks about her. So she began her career in private practice, representing clients in large loss general liability, auto negligence, and complex commercial claims in state and federal courts in trial on appeal. She also served as guardian ad litem, representing abused or neglected children. Okay. So, of course, she supported the abortion ban, was against legalizing weed. And here's the thing, regarding executive power, in June, Sasso agreed with other justices that a 2021 law to crack down on rioters can't be used against peaceful protesters. She also shared a June opinion that upheld DeSantis' suspension of Orlando area State Attorney Monique Worrell. So Monique Worrell was actually a state attorney that was more progressive, that didn't want to prosecute people for crimes like marijuana possession and stuff like that, or drug possession, because she believed it should be more of a health issue than a crime issue. But apparently people like Ron DeSantis and this judge didn't agree. So these are some of the things that you should also look out for, right? Now, here is the kicker. It says Florida Supreme Court Justice Renata Francis and Meredith Sasso are also both members of the Federalist Society. The Federalist Society is basically a conservative and libertarian legal group that advocates for the original interpretation of the U.S. Constitution. And a lot of times, these will also be the same people that will advocate heavily for corporations against you as workers. So the biggest red blotch that you see is whenever it says, oh, they're with the Federalist Society. Because they might as well also say they're part of the Heritage Foundation, right? or they might as well say they're part of some liberal think tank as well that also upholds corporations and corporate power. So when it comes to looking at judges, look out for things like this as well. Now, they'll say, for instance, that the group's founding principles are based on the ideas that states exist to preserve freedom and that separation of governmental powers is central to U.S. Constitution, according to its website. But it's like, whose freedoms? Because the thing is, like, it's never actually personal freedoms. It's always corporate freedom. The Federalist Society, I don't trust them because it's always about corporate freedom. And then when it comes to, if they talk about personal freedom, it's always personal freedom until it's body autonomy. It's always personal freedom until we use our freedom of speech to speak out against corporate overlords and politicians. So then when we want to protest and get out in the streets, oh, we can't because apparently that's against law and order. So this is why when it comes to judges like this, and this also extends to Democrats as well, Democrat appointed judges too, because they will also do the same things. They will also side with the corporations. This is why people like Ketanji Brown Jackson, Elena Kagan, and others, I do not trust them as far as I can throw them either, because they side with the corporations too. They may just say that they agree with social issues, but what good is it if you side with corporations? So with that being said, let me go back to this. And this is something that you can always use as pretty much the measuring rod. For instance, the 6th District Court of Appeals. This one talks about the Court of Appeals retention. And if you look at a lot of these people, they also, and these are continuing the 6th Court of Appeals, pretty much every single person in the entire Court of Appeals that are up for retention are also part of the Federalist Society. So pretty much all these people, I said no. I was like, hell no, you are not going to be retained. Not if I have anything to say about it. And so, and also to Roger, when I was doing the constitutional amendment, here's the constitutional amendments for the state, the ballot measures, which I did. But then here's the county charter amendments that we also voted on as well. And so I made sure to vote on all these. I don't have time to go over them all, but I also did the county charter amendments as well, which for the most part, most of them are actually where it go because it's actually for the benefit of citizens, and also ask for spending more money on citizens and also giving more power to the citizens as well. So that's one of the things I was also voting for. But when it comes to judges, make sure to do research on the judges. Look up the judges and see what their rulings are. Look at what groups that they're a part of. If it says anything like the Federalist Society, or if they have represented, corporations and things like that, pause, and also it's also a good rule of thumb. Typically they're either going to be appointed by a Democrat or Republican. 9 times out of 10, I try to look for if they were a public defender. I try to see if they were a defense attorney, criminal defense. I try to see about their advocacy when it comes to different groups, what type of foundations they're part of. Try to look at that because it's kind of hard to look at their rulings because there's a lot of legalese and things like that. But be very careful. And like I'd say 90% of the time when it comes to just asking about retaining judges, I'm doing no. Even if it was appointed by a Democrat, I don't care, because they're going to be with the corporations 9 times out of 10. So you got to really study these judges. But I highly recommend you guys also look up the judges before you guys go and vote, so that you guys aren't stuck there going, oh my God, I don't know, which one do I retain, which one do I keep? If you guys have to vote on judges in your state. So yeah, I want to make sure I got that in too. Oh, and by the way, there was a half-cent sales tax that we were asked either to retain or to get rid of. You best believe I chose to keep that half-cent sales tax. Why? Because it goes to our schools. I do not want to defund the schools. I want to defund the police, but not the schools. We're funding the schools. So, yeah. Thank you so very much. I hope you guys like the stream. Let's check the Rumble and the Rock. All right, looks like we're good on the Rumble side. Let's go to the Rockfin side. I think we're good on the Rockfin side. All right, and let's go to here. Okay, so Chris says judges are much harder to vote on, in my opinion, especially since not everyone has knowledge on law. Here in Connecticut, we vote for probate ones. Others are appointed. Thank you very much for that. Jackman says, just checked if we elected magistrates or judges in the UK, but we don't. They are appointed. Yeah. Roger Middle says, no more Lewis Powell judges, please. Lewis Powell. Who's Lewis Powell? I'm trying to remember who Lewis Powell is. That name sounds familiar, though. Thank you very much. Cobra Commander says, that's funny because we basically stole the Constitution from the indigenous. I think that's true. Chris C says, big chunk of the federal societies on the Supreme Court, too, at the federal level. Yeah. And yes, Chris says it's wise to be skeptical on them because their jurisprudence often sets dangerous precedent. Yeah. Yeah. And, a lot of times, look, I hate to, put out my nerdy side like this, but it's just like what Mace Windu said in Star Wars 3, Revenge of the Sith. He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive. The thing is like the corporations have control of the Senate and the courts. So, of course, we have to be very, very super selective. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to vote no to retain any of them judges. Well, you're not going to have any judges. Well, I guess we need to start getting some actual people who are representative of the people up there. Roger says, did they practice labor law? Also is what to look for with judges. Since we're talking judges, listen to episode 3, JB after show, all audio. Listen while making dinner. It will tell you who Lewis P. is, author of the Lewis Powell memo. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Social emotional learning with Dr. Donnie says, hey, you still on? Yes, I'm still on. I'm just finishing up. But yeah, Yeah, I think that's important because the thing is like we don't actually talk about the judges when it comes to voting, and a lot of people don't highlight that. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that. In addition, I think I'm going to put that in the playlist for the ballot initiative series, just because it talks about voting for judges in the ballot. I think I should include that in there, just so that people go, oh, well, this one's about judges. I think that's important. But yes, so if you are going to be voting, make sure to research the judges. And 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be end up voting no to retain. But you might find a diamond in the rough. This is why I tell you guys to research, because you might end up finding somebody who was a lawyer for unions, right? Or a lawyer, that helped, workers, especially if they're, like criminal defense, or they're if they are a public defender. So make sure to, take a look at that. Anywho, so we're going to get going. I gotta eat. I'm hungry. I'm starving. But anywho, yes. So be sure to tune in to Sabby and JB show on RBN this Thursday. And I forgot to show you guys. I'll show you guys this too, because let me go to my just to share this with you guys. And then I also have something to share with you guys that's funny on the way out, because I want to end with some humor.
Well, it is a Tuesday in October, and we have early voting here in Florida. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go early vote and cast my ballot. It's just one short period of time and a regular day, right? This is one of the most easiest things to do, and this is the very bottom of what we should be doing as far as the work that we need to do. Organizing, building dual power, doing mutual aid should be the top of our list. And if all you do is vote, are you really doing much of anything? So, going to go here, and yeah, let's go just cast our ballot and vote. Just finished. Got my ballot measures that I wanted to vote for in, as well as was able to get the different people who I felt best represented us, and said no to people who I felt can kick rocks. So, take care, guys. Have a good one. Well,
so that was me earlier today going out there. And one thing I want to say is, look, when it comes to voting really is the side quest. Always remember that. That's the side quest. The main quest is actually organizing, doing mutual aid, and building dual power. Always look at it like that, right? Because you have to do the main quest in order to beat the game. But the side quest can help a little bit in helping you beat the game. But always do the main quest first, then get into the side quests. So Roger Meadows says, I'm leaving the Judge's Blank. They're all dim and GOP pushed. Or you could just say no. Either way. Yeah. But yes. All right. So I'm going to play something really fun so that you guys are enjoying the rest of your day, because that's the kind of guy I am. And I just want to bring some joy to you guys because, why not? All right. So since we're talking about voting, you guys are going to be annoyed, but it's all good. Anywho, with that being said, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. Do all the things if you got them. Make sure to try to join an organization so you guys can build dual power and do mutual aid on the ground so that we can build and create a new system with our neighbors, with our fellow human beings. I love you guys for watching. Please continue to uphold each other and be kind to one another because, look, this system is not designed for us to be kind to one another, but we are. So, with that being said, forehead kisses because that's the kind thing to do. Kind people are my kind of people. And you guys have yourself a beautiful day. And please just do not allow for people to badger you into rejecting not just genocide of people abroad, but genocide of people here too. And take care, everybody. And laugh because joy is revolutionary. I'll see y'all later.
Hi, it's Ching Ching Chicken. Hi, I'm Kamala Harris. I'm gonna order some Chinese food. Oh my god, I love. Where's your accent from? Can I just say I love the working class so much? Yes, I order. Kung Pao. Oh my god, I grew up middle class and we ate Chinese food all the time. Yeah, I'm Asian as well. Dougie, do you want 2 or 3 egg roll? Fried rice, chicken fried rice. Okay, I like the way you think. Us Asians are gonna stick together. Thank you, bye-bye. Dougie, the food's on the way. Hi, it's Ching Ching Chicken. Hi,
Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.